I found my husband's second phone 3 months after our televised wedding, and the messages inside destroyed everything I thought I knew about love. That's Amara Okonkwo talking. 28 years old. Daughter of a schoolteacher from Enugu. And the biggest idiot in Lagos, Nigeria. But let me rewind to where the trap was set, February 2023. Amara was at a charity gala in Abuja, not because she belonged there, but because her NGO boss dragged her along. She wore a borrowed dress. She felt like a fraud among women dripping in diamonds. Then Senator Douglas Adeyemi walked up to her. 45. Handsome in that way powerful men are, not because of his face, but because of what he represented. Money. Influence. Access to rooms where Nigeria's future was decided. You look bored, he said, handing her champagne. She was. These events feel performative. He laughed. A real laugh. Finally, someone honest. They talked for 2 hours. He told her about growing up poor in Ibadan, about his mother selling oranges to pay his school fees, about wanting to change Nigeria from the inside. She told him about the orphanage where she volunteered, about the kids with brilliant minds trapped by poverty. What Amara didn't see, Douglas's campaign manager, turned Baligan, watching from across the room with a predator smile. What Amara didn't hear, turned whispering to Douglas's assistant, perfect. She's exactly what we need. Because here's what was really happening, Douglas was running for Lagos State Governor. And he was losing. Badly. His opponent, Chief Benson Okoro, had the youth vote. The women's vote. The woman of the people narrative. Douglas was seen as an elite, out-of-touch career politician who'd never struggled a day in his life. Ton laid it out in a strategy meeting: you need to humanize yourself. You need someone relatable. Young. Beautiful. From humble beginnings. You want me to date for votes? Douglas asked. Ton's smile was ice cold. I want you to marry for votes. The courtship was surgical. Douglas sent flowers every day. He showed up at her orphanage with donations and cameras. He took her to dinners where he, coincidentally, ran into journalists. He whispered about forever while Ton calculated poll shifts. 6 months later, Douglas proposed on live television during a campaign rally in Victoria Island. 50,000 people watched. 3 million more on TV. The crowd went absolutely insane. Amara said yes with tears streaming down her face. The polls shifted overnight. Douglas jumped 15 points in 1 week. The wedding in February 2024 was a national event. Traditional Nigerian ceremony followed by a white wedding. Celebrity guests. 3 governors in attendance. Live streamed to millions. Amara floated through it in a haze of joy. She was marrying a man who wanted to change Nigeria. A man who saw her, really saw her, despite coming from different worlds. She was so stupid. Because while she was saying her vows, Ton was in the back calculating demographic breakdowns. While she was cutting cake, Douglas's mistress, 7 months pregnant, was watching from home, reading his text, just a few more months, baby. This is all strategy. On their wedding night, Douglas got a call. Campaign emergency, he said, kissing her forehead. He left at midnight. She should have known right then. But Amara was in love. And love makes you blind to everything, especially the knife aimed at your back. Amara moved into Douglas's mansion in Ikoyi the day after the wedding. 8 bedrooms. Staff quarters. A pool that cost more than her father made in 10 years. It felt like a museum, not a home. You'll get used to it, Douglas said, already checking his phone. Always checking his phone. She tried to make it feel warm. Put photos on tables. Cooked him dinner herself, sending the chef away. But Douglas was never there to eat it. Campaign meeting, he'd text. Or fundraiser in Abuja. Or strategy session, don't wait up. 3 weeks into marriage, they'd spent maybe 6 full days together. When she complained, he'd pull her close, smell like expensive cologne and lies, and whisper, just until July, my love. Just until I win. Then it's us. Forever. She believed him. God, she believed him. Meanwhile, Ton was working magic. Every public appearance with Amara was calculated down to her outfit colors. Blue for trust. Green for hope. Traditional prints for cultural events. The orphanage visit with Amara pulled us up 8 points in women aged 25 to 40, Ton reported in a meeting Amara knew nothing about. Douglas nodded, sipping whiskey. Schedule more. And make sure she's wearing something the average Lagos woman can afford. We can't look too elite. What about the interview with Channels TV? Brief her on the talking points. Nothing off script. She's smart, but we can't risk her going rogue. Amara did everything they asked. She visited orphanages, her passion, so it felt genuine. She went to markets, posed with traders, ate street food while cameras rolled. She wore traditional attire and smiled until her face hurt. The polls kept climbing. Douglas was now leading Chief Okoro by 7 points. "You're my secret weapon," Douglas told her one rare night home, pulling her into bed. She melted into his arms, feeling valued. Feeling seen. If only she knew the truth, she wasn't his weapon. She was his prop. His puppet. His perfectly curated illusion. By April 2024, you couldn't walk through Lagos without seeing their faces. Billboards. Newspaper ads. TV commercials showing them laughing together, walking hand in hand, representing hope. Adeyemi for governor, a family for the people. Her friends from the orphanage were so proud. Her father called crying with joy. Random women stopped her in malls to say she was an inspiration. And Amara. She was starting to feel the cracks. Douglas barely touched her anymore. When he did come home, he smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. He'd take calls in other rooms, lowering his voice when she walked by. She told herself she was paranoid. Insecure. That the pressure of the campaign was making her imagine things. But women know. Deep down, we always know when something's wrong. The question is, do we listen to that voice, or do we silence it because the truth is too painful? "Is everything okay?" her best friend Gozi asked during a rare lunch in Victoria Island. "Perfect," Amara lied, twisting her wedding ring. "Just, the campaign is intense. He's lucky to have you." Amara smiled. But inside, a small voice whispered, "Or am I just lucky to be useful?" 3 days later, she'd find the second phone. And that small voice would become a scream. It was a Tuesday. Douglas was in Abuja meeting with party leadership. Amara was home alone, as usual, when her phone died. She went to Douglas's study looking for a charger. Opened his desk drawer. Saw a phone she'd never seen before, tucked under some files. Her stomach dropped. Because she knew. Even before she picked it up, she knew. The password screen appeared. She tried their anniversary. Wrong. Her birthday. Wrong. Then, almost laughing at how cliché it was, their wedding date. It unlocked. The first message thread was labeled "See Red Heart." Chioma. She'd met her at the wedding. Beautiful. Sophisticated. She'd congratulated Amara, hugged her even. Amara's hands shook as she scrolled. "Douglas, just a few more months, baby. After the election, we'll figure it out. Chioma, the baby's kicking. He needs his father. Douglas, I know. I'm sorry. This marriage is just for the cameras. You're the one I love." The messages went back 3 years. 3 years. Pictures of them together. Hotel receipts. And Chioma was 7 months pregnant. Amara couldn't breathe. The room spun. She wanted to vomit, scream, smash everything. But she kept reading. Because pain is addictive like that, you can't stop picking at the wound. Another thread. This one between Douglas and Tond. Tond, the orphanage visit with Amara pulled us up 8 points in the women's demographic. Douglas, good. Schedule more. And keep her wearing traditional attire to the April rally, we need the cultural vote. Turned, what about her social media? She posted something about education reform without clearing it first. Douglas, handle it. Can't have her going rogue. She's smart, which is helpful, but also dangerous. Keep her on script. Every single thing was calculated. The chance meeting at the gala. Thorne had researched her for weeks, knew she'd be there, positioned Douglas perfectly. The proposal. Time for maximum media coverage during a rally. The wedding. A televised PR event. Her charity work. Protested and strategized. She wasn't his wife. She was a campaign strategy. A demographic play. A tool to win votes. Amara sat on that study floor for 2 hours, crying until she had no tears left. Then something shifted. The grief crystallized into something harder. Colder. She wiped her face. Opened her own phone. And started taking pictures. Every message. Every receipt. Every disgusting, calculated conversation. When Douglas came home that night, she was in bed, reading. "Hey, baby," he said, kissing her forehead like he hadn't just destroyed her entire world. "Miss me?" "Always," she said, smiling. He undressed, got in bed, was asleep in minutes. The sleep of someone with no conscience. Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She could leave. File for divorce. Expose him publicly right now. But that felt too simple. Too quick. He'd spin it, paint her as a scorned woman, maybe even pay her off like he apparently did with the last wife. No. If she was going down, she was taking him with her. And she was going to make it count. By sunrise, Amara had a plan. It was risky. It was crazy. But Douglas had taught her something valuable in 3 months of marriage. Everything is strategy. Every move matters. Every person is either useful or disposable. Fine. She'd play his game. But by her rules. And when she was done, Senator Douglas Adeyemi wouldn't just lose the election. He'd lose everything. Amara became someone she didn't recognize. Cold. Calculating. Every smile was a mask. She started with Emeka, Douglas's driver. 40 years old. Underpaid. Overworked. And he saw everything. "Emeka, do you like working for my husband?" she asked one morning, handing him extra cash for fuel. He looked surprised. Douglas never acknowledged staff. "Yes, Ma. He pays well. But does he treat you well?" Emeka hesitated. And in that hesitation, Amara saw her opening. Over the next 2 weeks, she built trust. More cash. Genuine questions about his family. Helping his daughter get into a better school. Finally, during a drive to a campaign event, "Emeka, can I ask you something?" Off the record. He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yes, Ma. Am I the first wife? I mean, has Douglas done this before?" The silence was deafening. "Ma, I shouldn't. Please. I need to know." Emeka sighed. There was another woman. 5 years ago. During his Senate re-election campaign. Adiz was her name. Beautiful girl. Pharmacist from Port Harcourt. Amara's blood ran cold. What happened? Same thing. Whirlwind romance. Big wedding. Then after he won. Emeka shook his head. Divorce within 8 months. She got money. Signed papers. Disappeared. Do you know where she is? Last I heard, Canada. But Ma, I never told you this. Please. Amara found Adiz on Facebook that night. Living in Toronto. Married. Kids. Smiling in photos that didn't quite reach her eyes. She sent a message, "Hi. I'm Douglas Adeyemi's current wife. I need to talk to you. Please." 3 days later, Adiz responded, I signed an NDA. I can't. Even if it could stop him from doing this to someone else. A pause. Then, call me. The video call lasted 2 hours. Adis cried. So did Amara. He made me feel special, Adis said. Like I was the only one who understood him. Then after the election, he just turned off. No affection. No warmth. Started staying out all night. Did he cheat? Multiple women. I found messages, just like you. When I confronted him, Ton showed up with papers. A divorce agreement with a 50 million naira payout and an NDA. They gave me 48 hours to sign or they'd make things difficult. They had photos, Adis continued, voice shaking. Me with a male friend. Photoshopped to look like I was cheating. They said they'd release them, destroy my reputation, make sure no pharmacy would hire me. So you signed. I was 25. Scared. Alone. I took the money and ran. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry I wasn't braver. I'm sorry I let him get away with it. You were surviving, Amara said softly. But I'm not going to survive. I'm going to burn his entire world down. After the call, Amara had everything she needed, pattern of behavior. Witness testimony. And Adis agreed to provide a written statement, NDA be damned. But Amara still needed the perfect moment. Douglas was leading in the polls by 12 points. The election was July 15th, 2 months away. Every campaign appearance, she played her role. The devoted wife. The social worker who loved her husband. The humble girl who proved anyone could rise. Inside, she was a bomb with a timer. You've been amazing, Douglas said one night, rare praise. Ton says you're our MVP. The rallies where you speak get the highest turnout. I'm happy to help, Amara said, kissing his cheek. He pulled her close. After I win, we should talk about kids. Governor's wife with a baby. Imagine the approval ratings. She felt bile rise in her throat. But she smiled. That sounds perfect. That night, while Douglas slept, Amara refined her plan. She wasn't just going to expose him privately. She was going to do it publicly. Spectacularly. In a way he couldn't spin, couldn't pay off, couldn't escape. And she knew exactly when. May 2024. 6 weeks until the election. Douglas's campaign was a machine, and Amara was its most valuable part. She gave speeches at women's conferences. Visited markets in Mushin, Oshodi, Suralia, always with cameras following. She held babies, hugged grandmothers, talked about education and healthcare. And she was good at it. Scarily good. Because here's the thing about pain, it makes you a better actor. Every smile was revenge in disguise. Every kind word was a knife she was sharpening. At a women's empowerment conference in Victoria Island, Amara gave a speech Ton had written. But midway through, she went off script. I came from nothing, she said, voice strong. My father is a teacher. My mother died when I was 12. I've known poverty, struggle, uncertainty. And I want every woman here to know, your background doesn't define your future. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not what you can provide someone else. The crowd erupted in applause. Backstage, Ton was furious. What the hell was that? You deviated from the script. It was authentic, she said coolly. Isn't that what you want? Douglas pulled her aside later. Ton's right. You can't go rogue. We have a strategy. Your strategy is working because I'm real, Amara shot back. Those women connected with me because I meant what I said. You want a robot wife? I can do that. But don't be surprised when the polls drop. He studied her, surprised. She'd never pushed back before. Fine, he said eventually. But clear major points with Ton first. She nodded. But inside, she was smiling. She'd just proven she had power. And Douglas was too arrogant to see the danger. The rallies got bigger. 20,000 people in Ikeja. 30,000 in Lekki. 45,000 in Bedegri. At each one, Douglas played the devoted husband. Held Amara's hand. Kissed her forehead. Told stories about how she'd changed his life. The crowd ate it up. What they didn't see, Douglas arriving separately, leaving separately. The perfume on his collar. The late-night calls to Chioma. Just a few more weeks, baby. Then we're done with this charade. Amara knew about every call. She'd installed tracking software on the burner phone before putting it back. She knew when Douglas visited Chioma. When the baby was born, a boy, in late May. When Douglas held his actual son while lying to the world about his marriage. The rage was a living thing inside her. But she fed it. Controlled it. Turned it into fuel. Because the final rally, the big one, was scheduled for July 8th. 1 week before the election. Tafuwa Bewa Square. 50,000 expected attendees. Live broadcast across every major station in Nigeria. That was her moment. She practiced her speech in secret. Memorized every word. Every pause. Every emphasis. Adi sent her written statement, notarized and ready. Emeka agreed to provide testimony about the previous wife, the pattern. But the most damaging evidence. The messages from the burner phone. The calculations. The cold strategy. Douglas's own words proving he'd manipulated her, used her, saw her as nothing but a tool. All of it organized. Backed up. Ready to project on massive screens for 50,000 people to see. 3 days before the rally, Douglas came home excited. Ton wants you to give a speech at the final rally. Your own speech. About us, our love story, why I be a great governor. Amara's heart pounded. That's a lot of people. You can handle it. You're a natural. He kissed her forehead. This is it, baby. The final push. After next week, I'm governor. And we can finally relax. I can't wait, she said, returning his kiss. That night, she added one final element to her plan. Not just the exposure. Not just the evidence. But a way to make sure Douglas couldn't spin it, couldn't minimize it, couldn't make her look like a crazy, scorned wife. She needed him to confirm it himself. July 6th. 2 days before the final rally. Amara suggested dinner. Just them. No campaign. No staff. Douglas was surprised but agreed. They went to Lotovena in Victoria Island. Expensive. Intimate. Perfect. She wore his favorite dress. Smiled warmly. Played the loving wife. Her phone was recording in her purse. I've been thinking, she said over wine. After you win, what happens to us? Do I keep doing campaign appearances, or? Douglas took her hand. You'll be First Lady of Lagos. There'll be events, sure. But less pressure. We can focus on us. Really. Really. You've been incredible, Amara. Better than I could have imagined. What did you imagine? He laughed. Honestly. Ton suggested finding someone relatable to humanize me. I didn't think it would work this well. Her stomach clenched, but she kept her face soft. So, this was planned. Finding me. Not you specifically. But someone like you, yes. The campaign needed a reset. You were perfect for it. She asked, voice small, vulnerable, but he couldn't resist. Douglas squeezed her hand. Ah. You are perfect. Look, politics is strategy. I needed someone genuine, someone the people could relate to. But what I found was actually more. You're smart, driven. This doesn't have to just be political. So it started political. Everything in politics starts political, baby. But that doesn't mean it can't become real. And, what about before me? Did you have other relationships? His expression shifted slightly. Caution. Why are you asking this? Amara's eyes filled with tears, real ones, but not for the reason he thought. Sometimes I feel like I don't fully know you. Like there's a war. And I wonder if I'm just convenient. Douglas's face softened. You're not convenient. You're necessary. There's a difference. Necessary for what? For winning. For connecting with voters. For showing I'm not just some elite politician. He refilled their wine. Look, yes, I was married before. Briefly. It didn't work. But this us is different. How? Because you believe in what I'm doing. Adis didn't care about politics. There it was. Confirmation he'd done this before. On tape. Do you love me? Amara asked, voice breaking. Douglas stood, came around the table, pulled her up into his arms. I care about you. Deeply. And after the election, we'll figure out what that means. But right now, I need you focused. 2 more days. Then I'm governor. Then everything changes. Promise. Promise. They kissed. The other diners probably thought it was romantic. Amara felt nothing but cold satisfaction. He'd given her everything she needed. In the restaurant bathroom, she checked the recording. Crystal clear. His admission about strategy. About Adis. About her being necessary for winning. She sent it to her private email. Backed it up 3 different ways. When she returned, Douglas was on his phone. Ton wants us there by 4 p.m. for sound check. Your speech is scheduled for 6:30, right before mine. I'll be ready. What are you planning to say? Amara smiled. How much I love you. How you've changed my life. How Lagos deserves a leader like you. Douglas beamed. Perfect. Keep it emotional. Raw. That's when you're most effective. Oh, I'll be emotional, she thought. I'll be raw. Just not the way you expect. That night, Douglas got a call. Baby's sick, he muttered, grabbing his keys. I need to go, Amara said. I understand. He looked relieved. Kissed her quickly. Left. She knew where he was going. To Chioma. To his real son. To the life he actually wanted. Amara stood by the window, watching his taillights disappear. In 48 hours, she'd destroy him. In 48 hours, everyone would know what Senator Douglas Adeyemi really was. In 48 hours, she'd stop being a prop and become a reckoning. She didn't sleep that night. She didn't need to. Rage is better than rest. July 8, Rally Day. Tafuwa Bewa Square was chaos. Crews setting up massive LED screens. Sound checks. Security everywhere. Party officials running around with clipboards. The energy was electric. 50,000 people were expected. Maybe more. Every major news station in Nigeria would broadcast live. This was Douglas's coronation before the actual election. And Amara. She was the secret weapon about to detonate. In the campaign tent, Ton was in his element. Final polls have us at 55 to 38. Chief Okoro is done. Tonight's just the victory lap. Douglas grinned, shaking hands with party officials. He wore traditional agbada, white and gold, rigor. Every inch the future governor. Amara sat in a corner, going over her speech. Ton had written something saccharine about love and partnership and believing in Douglas's vision. She'd memorized it perfectly. Then burned it. Her actual plan was on her phone. Screenshots organized. Video clips ready. Her speech memorized. You good? Ngozi asked, appearing beside her. Her best friend had flown in from Abuja for the rally. Nervous, Amara said. True, but not why Ngozi thought. You'll kill it. You always do. If only you knew, Amara thought. At 5 p.m., the crowd started filling in. By 5:45, the square was packed. 40,000 people, maybe more. The energy was massive, drums, dancing, campaign songs blasting. Douglas did his pre-rally ritual, prayer with his inner circle, shot of whiskey, final poll review. "This is it," he said, pulling Amara close for cameras. "Our moment." She leaned into him, smiling for the photos. The perfect couple. In 30 minutes, that image would be ash. At 6:15, warm-up speakers started. A popular comedian. A Nollywood actress. A gospel singer. Working the crowd into a frenzy. Amara watched from backstage, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it over the speakers. Ton appeared. "You're on in 10. Remember, emotion, authenticity, connect with the women in the audience. Tell them why Douglas is different." "Oh, I will," she said. He studied her. "You seem different. Come. I'm ready." At 6:28, the announcer's voice boomed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the woman who has captured Lagos's heart, the future First Lady, Mrs. Amara Adeyemi." The crowd exploded. 50,000 people cheering. Amara walked onto that stage, and the lights hit her like a baptism. The screens showed her face, 40 feet tall. Beautiful. Composed. She reached the microphone. The cheering continued. She waited, let it build, then raised her hand. Silence fell. "Good evening, Lagos," she said, voice steady, powerful. "My name is Amara Adeyemi. And I have something to tell you." In the wings, Douglas smiled. Ton nodded approvingly. "When I met Senator Adeyemi, I thought I'd found something rare, a man who saw me, not just what I could do for him." The crowd murmured agreement. This was good. On message. "I thought our love story was real." Douglas's smile widened. "I was wrong." The smile froze. Backstage, Ton grabbed his radio. "What is she doing?" "Cut her mic." But Amara had planned for that. She had the sound engineer's teenage son in the audience. She'd helped him get a scholarship. He'd made sure her mic couldn't be cut remotely. 3 months into my marriage," Amara continued, voice carrying across the square, "I found my husband's second phone." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Douglas started moving toward the stage. Security blocked him, they didn't know what was happening yet. "And on that phone, I found messages that changed everything." She pulled out her phone. The LED screens behind her switched from her face to screenshots. Text messages. Douglas to Chioma. Douglas to Ton. 50,000 people, millions watching at home, seeing it all. The first message appeared on the screens, 40 feet tall. "Douglas, just a few more months, baby. This marriage is just for the cameras. You're the one I love." The crowd's energy shifted. Confusion. Shock. Angry mamas. Amara let it sink in. Then showed the next message. "Chioma, the baby's kicking. He needs his father." "Douglas, I know. After the election, we'll figure it out." Women in the crowd started yelling. Men shook their heads. The perfect image was cracking in real time. "Let me up there." Douglas roared, trying to push past security. Ton was screaming into his radio. "Cut the screens. Cut the feed. Someone stop her." But the screen stayed on. The cameras kept rolling. Every news station in Nigeria was broadcasting this live. Amara's voice remained steady. "Senator Adeyemi has a son. Born 2 months ago. To a woman he's been with for 3 years. While courting me. While marrying me. While using me to win your votes." She showed photos. Douglas holding the baby. Douglas with Chioma at hotels. Receipts. A pattern spanning years. Then came the messages between Douglas and Ton. "Ton, the orphanage visit with Amara pulled us up 8 points in the women's demographic. Douglas, good. Schedule more. Keep her wearing traditional attire to the Ape rally, we need the cultural vote. The crowd's anger grew louder. People were booing now. Some crying. Women who'd related to Amara's story feeling betrayed themselves. I wasn't his wife, Amara said, voice breaking now, real emotion, raw pain. I was a strategy. A demographic play. A tool to make him look human. She showed the restaurant recording. Douglas's own words, everything in politics starts political. You're necessary. For winning. For connecting with voters. The boos were deafening now. Objects started flying toward the stage, water bottles, campaign materials. Security rushed forward. But I'm not the first. Amara shouted over the noise. There was another woman. Adis. 5 years ago. Same pattern. He married her for his Senate campaign. Divorced her after he won. Paid her off. Made her sign an NDA. The screens showed Adis' notarized statement. Her wedding photos. The divorce papers. This is what Senator Douglas Adeyemi does. He finds women he can use. He manipulates them. He discards them. And he thinks you're all stupid enough to fall for it. Douglas finally broke through security and stormed the stage. His face was purple with rage. He grabbed for the microphone. This is lies. She's having a breakdown. But Amara stepped back, and her voice, still amplified, cut through. Am I lying, Douglas? Tell them. Tell these 50,000 people. Tell Lagos. Was I your wife or was I your campaign strategy? He froze. Cameras zoomed in on his face. The silence was crushing. Answer her, someone in the crowd yelled. Answer her. More voices joined. Douglas's mouth opened. Closed. He looked at Turned in the wings. At the cameras. At the crowd turning hostile. We can explain. No, Amara said quietly. You can't. Because everything I showed them is true. Every message. Every photo. Every calculation. You used me. You used Adis. You used these people's trust. And now everyone knows. She turned back to the crowd. I'm not a prop. I'm not a strategy. I'm a human being who was manipulated and used by a man who sees people as tools for power. If this is what he did to his wife, she continued, imagine what he'll do to Lagos. She dropped the microphone. The sound echoed like a gunshot. And Amara walked off that stage while 50,000 people watched Douglas Adeyemi's campaign implode in real time. Security was everywhere now. Trying to control the crowd. Trying to stop people from rushing the stage. Trying to shut down the chaos. But it was too late. The damage was done. The truth was out. And every news station in Nigeria had broadcast every second. Amara made it backstage before the crowd broke through barriers. Security surrounded her, pushing through people with cameras, reporters shouting questions. Mrs. Adeyemi. Is everything you said true? Are you filing for divorce? Do you have more evidence? She said nothing. Just kept walking. Ngozi found her by the back vehicles. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did you just... Get me out of here, Amara said. Please. They drove to Ngozi's apartment in Lekki. Amara's phone was exploding. Calls from Douglas. From Turned. From news stations. From lawyers. She turned it off. What happens now? Ngozi asked. I don't know, Amara admitted. The adrenaline was fading. Reality was setting in. I just ended a man's entire career on live television. He deserved it. Did he? Amara's hands shook. I mean, yes, but what if I'm wrong? What if? Ngozi grabbed her shoulders. Stop. You showed the truth. His messages. His pattern. His own words. That's not revenge, that's justice. They turned on the TV. Every channel was covering it. The meltdown. The messages. The photos. Social media was on fire. Hashtag Amara Adeyemi was trending #1 in Nigeria. #3 worldwide. Some people called her a hero. Others said she was bitter, vindictive, that she should have handled it privately. But the damage to Douglas was undeniable. His campaign headquarters released a statement calling Amara's claims defamatory and promising legal action. Within 2 hours, Chioma posted on Instagram a photo of her baby. Caption, to everyone asking, yes, this is Senator Adeyemi's son. And no, I'm not ashamed. The only person who should be ashamed is the man who made promises to 2 women. The internet exploded again. By midnight, 3 major party officials had withdrawn support for Douglas. By 2 a.m., 2 more came forward with stories about his pattern of using women for political gain. By dawn, Douglas's opponent, Chief Okoro, held a press conference. I won't comment on Senator Adeyemi's personal life. But I will say this, leadership requires integrity. Lagos deserves better. The election polls shifted overnight. What was 55 to 38 became 40 to 48. Douglas was losing. Badly. On July 10, 2 days after the rally, Douglas held his own press conference. Amara watched from Ngozi's apartment. He looked destroyed. Aged 10 years overnight. I made mistakes, he said, voice flat. I hurt people I care about. I use poor judgment in my personal life. But my vision for Lagos remains. A reporter interrupted. Will you drop out of the race? Douglas hesitated. No. I believe. What about Adis? Did you marry her for your Senate campaign? His face went pale. That was different. That was. Are the messages Mrs. Adeyemi showed fabricated? Some were taken out of context. Yes or no? Are they real? Silence. Then, yes. The room exploded with questions. Douglas walked out. His campaign manager didn't follow. 3 hours later, Tom Baligan resigned. 12 hours after that, Douglas withdrew from the gubernatorial race. Amara read the news on her phone, sitting on Ngozi's balcony. How do you feel? Ngozi asked. Empty, Amara admitted. I thought I'd feel victorious or satisfied. But I just feel empty. You did the right thing. Did I? His career is over. His reputation is destroyed. His son will grow up knowing his father as a scandal. His choices did that. Not you. But Amara wasn't sure. She dropped a bomb that destroyed everything. Was she justice or just revenge? She didn't have an answer. 2 weeks later, Amara filed for annulment on grounds of fraud and emotional manipulation. Douglas didn't contest it. The settlement was simple, she wanted nothing. No money. No property. Just her freedom and her maiden name back. Her lawyer thought she was crazy. He's offering 100 million naira. I don't want his blood money, Amara said. I want him to know he can't buy his way out of this. Douglas signed. He had no choice. The man who'd wielded power like a weapon was now powerless. July 15th, Election Day. Chief Benson Okoro won in a landslide. 62 to 31, Douglas's name was still on the ballot, but he might as well have been invisible. In his victory speech, Okoro thanked the people of Lagos. Then he said something unexpected. I also want to acknowledge Mrs. Amara Okonkwo. Yes, Okonkwo, she's reclaimed her name, for her courage. She reminded us that integrity matters. That truth matters. That one person speaking up can change everything. The crowd cheered. Amara watched from home. She didn't cry. She was done crying. The interview started coming. CNN. BBC. Al Jazeera. Everyone wanted her story. She turned them all down. Except one. A young journalist from a women's magazine. Someone who reminded her of herself before Douglas. "Why did you do it?" the journalist asked. "Why so publicly?" Amara thought carefully. "Because private confrontations can be denied, spun, hidden. I wanted everyone to see the truth. I wanted other women who've been used and manipulated to know they are not alone." Do you regret it? Part of it. I regret the pain. The chaos. The fact that a child will grow up with this scandal hanging over his father. But I don't regret the truth. What's next for you? Amara smiled. I'm going back to what I love. Social work. Helping people. But I'm also starting a foundation for women exiting manipulative or transactional relationships. We'll provide legal support, counseling, job training. Help them rebuild. What will you call it? The Addis Foundation. After the woman who came before me, who didn't get the chance to speak up. 3 months later. November 2024. The foundation opened in a small office in Yoba. Addis flew in from Toronto for the launch. The two women who'd both been used by Douglas, now united in helping others. I should have been braver, Addis said, tears in her eyes. You survived, Amara replied. That took its own kind of bravery. Now we help others do more than survive. The foundation grew quickly. Women came forward with their own stories. Not all political. But all variations of being used, manipulated, valued for what they could provide rather than who they were. Douglas. He disappeared from public life. Rumor was he moved to Ghana. Some said London. Nobody really cared anymore. Chioma raised their son alone, occasionally posting cryptic messages about learning the difference between being chosen and being convenient. Ton Baligan opened a consulting firm. His business dried up within months. Nobody wanted to hire the man who'd orchestrated the manipulation. Politics moved on. Lagos moved on. Nigeria moved on. But the women who'd watched Amara stand on that stage, they didn't forget. 6 months after the rally, Amara received a letter. No return address. Just a note. I was in an abusive marriage. Watched you speak. Filed for divorce the next day. 3 months later, I'm free. Thank you for showing me that one moment of courage can change everything. You saved my life. Amara pinned it to her office wall. Then another came. And another. Dozens of letters from women who'd found strength in her story. That's when she knew it wasn't about Douglas. It never was. It was about refusing to be silent. About choosing truth over comfort. About showing that when someone uses you, the power isn't in staying quiet, it's in speaking up. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the rally, a journalist asked Amara if she'd do it again. She smiled. Every single time. Because I'd rather be the woman who spoke up than the woman who stayed silent. I'd rather be messy and honest than perfect and used. Any regrets? Just one, Amara said, looking out her office window at Lagos' skyline. I regret waiting 3 months. I should have burned it all down sooner. The foundation helped over 200 women in its first year. Amara wrote a book, not a memoir, but a guide for recognizing manipulation and reclaiming power. She never remarried. Never wanted to. She'd learned that being alone was better than being used. Some nights, she'd think about Douglas. Wonder if he felt remorse. If he'd learned anything. If he'd changed. Then she'd remember that wasn't her problem anymore. She'd spent 3 months living his lie. She'd spend the rest of her life living her truth. And on those rare moments when someone recognized her, you're that woman from the rally. Amara would smile and correct them. No. I'm not that woman. I'm Amara Okonkwo. And I'm nobody's campaign strategy. Then she'd keep walking. Free. Whole. Unbreakable. Because she'd learned the hardest lesson, sometimes you have to destroy everything to save yourself. And sometimes, The most powerful thing a woman can do is refuse to be used. The end. They tried to make her a prop. She became a revolution. If this story made you feel something, anger, hope, recognition, drop a comment. And if you know someone being used or manipulated, share this with them. Sometimes people need to see that speaking up is possible. Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay silent. Because your voice matters. Your truth matters. You matter. Welcome to Freeside Tales, where we tell the stories that make you feel alive.